Welcome to the Global Spin Podcast with me, Ryan Cramer, where we take a deep dive into the world of global selling and share the secrets to growing your brand in new markets. Whether you're looking to expand your brand, enter new markets, or boost your sales, we've got you covered. Tune in for unscripted, engaging episodes that will take you on a journey of discovery and success. Let's get started. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Global Spin Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Cramer, and this is my corner of the internet where I bring the best and the brightest in the Amazon, e-commerce, and logistics and shipping space. If you're new to the podcast, welcome for the first time. This is episode 17, if I'm not mistaken. Go ahead and bring up our graphic real quick. 17. We call this the Global Spin Podcast because this podcast is all about building a brand and how to take your Amazon brand or e-commerce B2C or starting out online, and how do you become a global brand recognized all across not just one marketplace, but many different marketplaces. Everyone's goals and ambitions are growing to that now. And here in 2023, going into 2024, this podcast is having the great minds like our guest today, but also past guests in the service industry, but also brand side of things. How are they taking their businesses to the next level? So that's why this podcast is all about. And every episode here on the Global Spin Podcast is fueled by Frisbi. That's right. If you are looking to expand your brand internationally, Frisbi is the service and the software to help your brand take it to the next level, whether it's expanding to Canada, your first international marketplace potentially, or even going international in the likes of across the pond, if you will, to the likes of the UK, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, or even across to Asia like Singapore, Japan. Frisbi has the expertise and the knowledge in order to help your brand get into those countries and start building your global brand empire. So that if you're interested or want to learn more about that, go ahead and check out frisbi.com/global spin podcast, or catch us on all of our social media sites, YouTube, to catch past episodes and to learn more about how to take the next step in your international expansion journey. Enough about me, enough about Frisbi. This podcast is really about picking the minds of really smart people. So if you're looking for a really high level conversation, this is that podcast. We're going to be diving into, again, going into what we call this title, the title of this episode today, offloading operational distractions, but also just want to know the minds of very successful people in the space and how we can, as entrepreneurs and as brands, put myself in your shoes and ask those tough questions, or even just those insightful questions on where I should be pointing my brand here in 2023 going into 2024. So without further ado, one of the most, I know we've actually rescheduled this probably at least 3 or 4 times. It feels like more, but I've been super adamant about having him on our podcast after meeting him at Amazon Accelerate and knowing his background, going in and having his hands in so many different facets of buying brands, being on boards, on the service side of things, but just really understanding e-commerce. This guy is probably one of the smartest people that you'll have a conversation with one-on-one. So lucky to have him in our corner of the internet today. We have Jamin Arvig of AI Commerce. Jamin, welcome to the Global Spin Podcast. I'm going to unmute you. There you go.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So you're joining me from sunny Florida, which is not fair because I'm stuck here in the Midwest in the Great Lakes area. But for people who don't know you, you're in Florida. You're part of so many different businesses. Take me through your 30-second pitch of who you are and your background and why we're sitting together today.
Sure. And I am in Florida, but also we swap between Florida and Minnesota. I grew up in Florida, so we definitely do enjoy the sun this time of year. Quick pitch on background on who I am. I started in e-commerce in 2001. So I had an engineering and legal background, but had a lot of motivation for getting into e-commerce at that time. And so started building brands, buying brands. I got involved later with Thrasio, early investor and board advisor for Thrasio. Served on other boards and invested in other brands over the time. And then throughout this time too, others were asking how they can benefit from what we were doing with our brands. And so we did provide services. And so AI Commerce came out of that. So AI Commerce does provide service to those that are trying to grow the valuation of their brand. And we do it by consulting and helping them form the right strategy, and then help plugging in the right resources and deploying the right technologies as well for them.
Wow. I mean, that's such a background. So, I mean, you started back in 2001. What got you into e-commerce in the first place? Like that was back when a lot of people were still trying to figure out, hey, where's the growth levers? Where are we going to be selling our product? Is it my own website? There's a lot of different iterations that people took before Amazon really became this platform for growth. So, what was that first love, Jamin, for you?
Sure. And yeah, rewinding slowly from the present to that time,
Yeah.
we've gone through all these generations. And even now you're at conferences, I am too, where people talk about being, OG Amazon, for example. They may have started in 2018. And it's maybe they are OG Amazon because so much has changed since 2018. But when we keep rewinding from 2018 to 2001, there's so many generations of e-commerce that happened. And early on, really, we came out of the dot-com bust. So it's probably analogous to the crypto winter that we've been going through, or maybe we're coming out of. I'm not sure. With cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, blockchain, and what we saw back then was a similar context that you knew that some of these things weren't going away in e-commerce, just like probably crypto and blockchain are probably here to stay in some way, right? So back then, I could see that, of course, something was happening, and there were books being sold online by one seller, and there were a few things being done, but nothing that great yet. And it was clear there was a need. So we all have opportunities for timing. That was our opportunity early on. So we started building a brand around water filters, actually. So we were the first to do that. And admittedly, back then, the big novel idea was delivering water filters to your door and making it easier. Certain types of water filters that solve different problems. And of course, now that has been hugely commoditized. So we've had to change throughout the generations for that type of business, and for many more throughout the time. But it was a lot of fun back then. It still is, with everything changing so fast. But every year or two, the shows were completely different. It was a completely different industry, completely different channels, and it's always fun to be part of something fast moving.
So you had this, like, things are changing, things are evolving constantly, and your hands is kind of, you're a seller, but then kind of got into more of the, I would say, the acquisition of brands. Like, what I'm curious, from a person who I have not purchased a brand, and it's always been fascinating from people who, either on a smaller scale, right? You're taking either a competitor or someone who just doesn't want to do it anymore, or really, they just don't know, have the scaling capability to take it to, we call it another level, right? But whether it be financially or operationally or whatever it takes, you built that mindset and you kind of morphed it into so many different ways. From a acquisition perspective, what was unique about that space? Like, again, you had mentioned, hey, there was a component that you were a part of, the Thrasio mindset, which was the number one aggregator. But when you're coming into play, what's that space feel like for you, and maybe how does it feel now in terms of and where e-commerce is at this point?
So we bought brands early on. Excuse me, one compared to the aggregator space. And we never considered ourselves an aggregator when we were
Sure.
buying brands on our own. Really, it was more about looking at strategic opportunity that fit our direction and our vision. And I think you'll find that a lot of the so-called aggregators that have survived and or are thriving are those who do have a very distinct strategy, and they've got a niche they're going after that really caters to their own capabilities and caters to the customers that they are good at working with. And so for us, we do have our own way of going about some of these things. We look for product brands that are very good at differentiation. Brands that have a roadmap, a product roadmap that can continually differentiate, and people who have those types of skills and connections that have that type of benefit that they can continue to provide. So if we can find that type of partner, we can help grow the valuation tremendously. We've got all kinds of capabilities that we've built for over 20 years, because back then you could not easily outsource a lot of this stuff. There wasn't infrastructure like there is today for so many of the systems and processes and departments that we need. So we had to build a lot of these things internally. So we've got all these capabilities. when we can bring in the right brand, whether it's by earning equity, buying equity, or earning fees, we can truly drive a lot of growth.
Okay. So when I hear that's just you're tried and true, you're working through it and you have the playbook in mind. Is there, I guess since you've been doing this so long, has there been brands that have been long standing you're still working with, and back in, you started this, 20 plus years ago? Is there still brands that you're working with that have, made it through those different iterations of the different products you're launching, the operation ups and downs that you're focused on? Are there ones that you're still having your hands on or working with that are, you know, 5, 10 plus years old still, or have they evolved into something completely new? Um,
Yeah, no, quick answer is yes. I mean, some of these are very long-term brands, and
sure.
as you can expect, some do better, some do worse over time. The ones that do better are those that truly do have the differentiation, that stay ahead. And so we've learned over time expensive lessons early on that we really do need to keep driving that differentiation and having that product roadmap. And it is one of the things that I was sharing with aggregators like Thrasio early on, was that we need to make sure we are not banking on a review moat, and not banking on one or two great products on one channel being a business. And we need to really make sure we can anticipate that each product has a product life cycle. And a lot of these life cycles are going to be shortened over time, right? And now with AI, even more so. So we don't want to get too comfortable on one good product and expect it's going to last forever.
So with that being said, has that actually mentality changed very recently? I would think that, and this is my outside perspective, if I'm acquiring a brand, you want something that's going to have high visibility, high ability to drive volume, but then also over time with that revenue and that iteration, you're really going to launch those new products, and you're gonna keep the churning out those new products. Someone used a very smart example, right? It's a bit, you have an ice cube, you're selling an ice cube. And basically the bigger the ice cube, the longer it's going to last, right? You want to keep it cold as long as possible. So if we're all selling these products in different iterations of these different kinds of products, when does that evolution become into the brand ecosystem? Because we're talking about, hey, we don't want to worry about this brand moat, like 200,000 reviews on Amazon's fantastic. However, that product will more than likely, if it's 2 years or 3 years or 5 years, it will become obsolete at some point. And now we have to iterate, and what we have left is our name or our brand, or how we make people feel when they buy our products or services. How is that how's that changed over time now that the value is now shifted to this? We are this ecosystem of people are now buying the look and the feel of this kind of product based e-commerce store, if you will, on Amazon or on D2C or wherever you want to build it. How's that evolved over time, do you think?
It's evolved a ton. Ryan, how long have you been in e-commerce?
I've been here at least 9 years. So I've been in here since 2015.
Okay, so you've seen a lot of these ups and downs
Yeah.
too. And if we rewind even further, I mean, it was a different world. And people were buying things from Costco and selling them. I think I've heard recently a few people do that, but back then that was a novel idea that was differentiated back then.
Sure.
And then people would be buy from a wholesaler and sell stuff online. There just wasn't all the product out there, so those types of things were at the time differentiated because they didn't have those products to compete with. And then people started getting into private brand, and that blew the minds of the previous generation I just described. And private brand was great because then you could own the SKU, you could own the ASIN. And so at that point, then the earlier model seemed ridiculous because the new model was better. But then it's not always obvious to everyone what's coming. So then later, private brand doesn't just mean you're okay. You need to have differentiated product brand with an actual brand built, not just a white label. And now we're looking at beyond that too. We need to be great at building new products, at developing new products, at getting differentiation on there, at getting multi-channel, diversification. We need to be good at launching products in different methods that take advantage of product discovery, not just product search. And we need to be quick to market on developing products, not just copying products and that type of thing. So I think there have been several steps in the evolution.
Right. When we're talking about value, right? Everyone wants to know what's the most important asset that I have as an e-commerce, individual. Right now, where's the number one value for any sort of brand? Where would you place, hey, all my chips, if I had to give you some sort of valuation, like for across the board of this brand, where's the number one value going to be lying with them?
Yeah, I really believe it is kind of the theme we've already touched on quite a bit, which is product differentiation. A company needs to have good channel execution, good strategy for distribution, but they have to start with a great product, and not just a great product, but a product roadmap. So they need to be very, very good at that. And this kind of leads into what we do. I mean, this is my theory that this is what develops value. So we need to be able to provide all the channels, channel expertise and channel execution to push this type of differentiated product. Once we really have something, and we need to start getting out into the market and not relying on one channel with huge customer concentration risk, and not relying on one SKU or a few SKUs. So we need to continually change that. So that kind of sets up, I think, where we come into play now, which is we've got these capabilities, and the reason for us to exist is that there's so much complexity in the market now. If someone does have that amazing brand, that amazing product, maybe it's an idea, but it truly is differentiated, and there's something that makes it difficult for them to get knocked off. If someone has that, that's great. That's gold. Now they need to go, bring to market and make sure it stays out in the market and it's optimized. So but that's hard nowadays, right? Back 22 years ago, it was so much easier. You could beat Walmart out of a garage, and now you have to have $1 billion plus infrastructure to really go at these things. You need all the right pieces at all the right times, and this continually changes. So it's complex to bring that great product to market and stay on top. And so that's what we try to do for our partners and for our brands, is make sure we know all these chess pieces. And make sure if there's a new one that comes into play, it's available, we get it fast. We can leverage that new chess piece quickly, and then we put them on the board at the right time in the right place and make our moves.
So it's almost as if you have to see where the market is, almost like watching the market, see where it is, bringing something of value to the market consistently, right? You're constantly monitoring, developing, and executing, but then you're not stopping there. It's not like I can make Yeti Cup XYZ any better than what it currently is. It's where the market currently is. But if I need to add a handle later on, or if I need to develop some other product outside of my realm, you really want to have your eyes set on the future, right? Like a year or two out, to keep developing, to make sure that, hey, my brand is not just this product is doing well currently or it will do next year, but I'm talking about how do I consistently, when that product is no longer the belle of the ball, I have all these other upcoming, it's almost like a farm system, right? If you're going to a sports analogy, making sure that you have young talent that's coming up will continue to make your franchise big and strong and winning all your championships. You really can't just deplete it and not having anything come up, or you'll just be, for lack of a better term, not competing, within those couple of years, and set yourself back, 5-10 years or something like that. Is that similar to what we're both talking about?
Yeah, for sure. And all along the way, you need the right capabilities to execute. So you need to keep your product roadmap good and getting great, and perfecting that at all times, diversifying it at all times, differentiating with the new technology, truly making sure objectively that there is something different and unique that customers actually care about. And if you can focus on that and do that amazingly well, then it's about bringing these products to market and operating at an excellent level.
Yeah. So Jamin, while we're talking about you're talking about a lot of like I like to think of you as the AI commerce, first and foremost, and you've had your hands in so many other things. So when I think I'm making sure that I'm speaking to AI commerce. You guys talk a lot about multi-channel e-commerce growth. So in my mind, when I hear that, is it's not just Amazon and a couple different markets. You're talking about holistically as a brand. You can find D2C or Walmart in retail. I find myself to think a lot bigger and wider when I think about what you guys are representing. Is that correct? Or Is there a different component that you want to add in there as well?
No, that's right. I think there's the marketplace shops like you're talking about, Amazon, Walmart, some of those. There's the D2C retail experience that a company can truly control and make unique. There's other channels people can be playing on through partners that can bring products to market. There's B2B markets that can be very, very helpful. Fair.com, for example, is very good for certain products. We really use that. And then you can get in shops, in stores, physical stores, and expand that significantly as well. So these are some of the things that we do for our brands and others. And when you have your product out in the market and there's lots of channels at play, you really can start to get more brand awareness, and you do have halo effects between the channels that are very favorable.
Does it ever come up that people feel like it might be too many things that I can get into, or how do we make sure we protect brands to make sure that they're successful in the right marketplaces instead of shiny object syndrome, which I always make sure people stay away from. It's nice to know where you're successful, but follow data, making sure that your brand will be successful, your product's gonna be successful in that marketplace. Like the belt, a lot of people like to talk about Shein, or is Shein or Temu, are those marketplaces fit for brands here in the United States, or for products that we're working with, or maybe it's even going in the lines of social commerce and TikTok shop and all those different components. I've had conversations with former guests on here about all those things, and to me it's a lot. How do we protect people from getting overwhelmed and having to be everywhere, but in the right marketplaces?
Yeah, great question. I mean, you're giving me a nice softball with a leading question there. But
That's why I'm the host.
Perfect. Thank you. So we speak at a lot of events and lead a lot of events too. And one of the big topics people ask all the time is what you just asked, and that is, what channel is right for me? And I remember one of these shows, someone said they had launched in dozens of new channels this year, and it was difficult, and they're shutting them off, and a lot of them off, and that's probably right to do. I mean, you can't launch in dozens of channels immediately and hope for great things. You need to understand some of the things you're talking about, which is, what is the right channel for me? So there's a very detailed process that we run through to make sure people are expanding to the right channels. And it does really look at who is the target customer of the product and of the brand that we're selling. Who is the target customer? Where are they? Where are they shopping? And thinking through a lot of the capabilities we have today and the capabilities that are required to win on those channels. So you mentioned, marketplaces first, perhaps. I mean, it might be most obvious if someone's on Amazon to say Walmart might be a good one, because the capabilities required to operate on Walmart are very similar to the capabilities to operate under Amazon. So that's true. That's a very good consideration. So, you get one point for the consideration moving to Walmart in that scenario. But there's lots of other considerations too, with including the profitability of a SKU and of the brand and the margins and all that kind of thing, making sure that there truly is an opportunity on Walmart in that example. You talk about social commerce, and this is getting very big, of course, and it's big for us. It should be on the radar for everyone. When they're looking at the next channels to launch into, they should truly look at the social commerce channels, the marketplace channels, D2C, and some of the offline world that we're talking about, and be objective and figure out what is the opportunity, what is the cost of each of these, and stack rank them. And we're happy to help with some of that for folks that are interested. But TikTok is such an awesome example because of what's happening there now, not just in the generation they were crushing it with earlier, and not just on views, but with all generations and with actual product discovery and really helping actually end up with a purchase. And the numbers are absolutely staggering with the growth rates on who is on TikTok, how they're using it. Some generations are hitting it 17 times per day. They're getting on that. It's an addictive interface. And so people are on there, and how are they using it? How do they want to use it? But there's in all age ranges now, in the next year, a majority of the people that are on TikTok will be on TikTok shops, will be looking to buy and make a purchase through that platform directly. So it can't be ignored. I mean, this is the next generation, right? Which is of e-commerce, that is, which is to look at how do we convert on social commerce? How do we leverage that? And it's always easier to compete in a new space in the sense that the cost per click is lower, the competition is much less, and so it's you have to look at it, you have to consider it. It may or may not be right for your brand, it may or may not be the right timing for your brand, but it should be considered.
Right. We say that all the time with entering a new Amazon marketplace too, or a different country. There is the first to market. There is that window where you have to have a leg up on your consumer, which makes a lot of sense to people that Amazon's goal, and just like any other marketplace, is to have a catalog of products that people are searching for consistently, whether they're already searching for them or not. That might come with the development of the marketplace, or it might be that your consumer is already demanding your product there already. So there's all these different sources that are telling you now's the time to do it, or hey, there's market maturity that needs to happen. How are you guys aggregating all that information, putting it into a consumer's lap and saying, hey, right now your customer is X, Y, and Z marketplaces. This is how our strategy needs to be growth moving forward, and not get distracted by those other marketplaces because they're not demanding of your product right now. How do you guys collect that information? How do you educate? What are those ways that you guys are getting smarter with the data there?
Yeah, another big part of the process of identifying which marketplace is next is understanding and analyzing the data that's available to show which platforms have my customer on it, which platforms have my customers that are searching for my product on it, or could if my product was available. And so the earlier marketplaces don't have as much data, they don't have as much infrastructure, but there's more and more becoming available, and we use the best data available for any of these. So we have, with TikTok as an example, we're launching lots of TikTok shops, and if people are interested, it's something that should be considered, is opening up a TikTok shop quickly. It's not difficult, and we can help with this, but there's a lot of opportunity for new product categories on there. And a question was asked in a webinar a few days ago, which products are most helpfully sold on TikTok, and of course you can find some products that are easier to demonstrate on video. You can think of products that are more fun or unique, or will be more likely to be viral, things like that. And that's true. However, TikTok can be viable for almost anything, because people are searching there more and more. So if they're searching for something very boring that isn't sexy and on a video and isn't going viral, still people are on the platform now searching for whatever it is. So I think we need to be very open-minded about these things.
Amazing. So going back to, I like it when people can kind of like rein people in because of all these different places that customers can go with their brands, and with what's the next step in my growth journey. We talked about here at the top of the podcast episode, offloading operational distractions. I really want to make it even dumber for people and ask a really boring question. Jamin, what is an operational distraction in your mind?
Love the question. It's anything that does not directly add value. And if you are owning a brand, running a brand, working on product dev and those types of things, you are truly driving value. The moment you start thinking about how do I put my GL accounts in the right order and in accounting, you are no
I think we
longer,
just lost a couple of listeners.
you are no longer, I mean, you have to do it. It's part of, it's a necessary evil. Is it truly adding value to your business? If you're building a brand, much less likely, right? And what about the operational aspects? What about some reporting aspects? What about all these areas that, taxation? You can think about all these operational things. You can even move into marketing and think about all of the operational marketing aspects of running TikTok. We've been talking about TikTok, for example, or Amazon account management, case management on Amazon, all these things. Are you truly adding value? And you've got to get this done. But ideally, you free yourself up from that. You elevate by delegating, and you get rid of these things, either with your own team internally or an external team if you really want to focus your team. And so that is, it can make sense. I was talking to someone recently that has raised a lot of money over the years. He's built some amazing businesses, 9-figure, 10-figure type businesses. And he sees what we're talking about too, and he says, well, this makes a ton of sense, because you kill 3 years of your growth curve if you're focusing on building out the operational support versus focusing on value creation.
Right. Is that where people messed up the most, is not knowing where their time commitment should be best, best used? Because to me, it sounds like, hey, if I can systemize it, or if I can, like you said, narrow down this time spent on this task, all needs to be done. It's all important, but when everything's important, nothing's important. So what is it? What does it take to kind of open someone's eyes? Is it kind of going through the numbers with people, or I mean, you've done it. Like, how does one do that to make it very clear on these are the most important tasks you should be as a business owner, as a CEO of your business. Everything else can be automated, or it can be delegated. I love the phrase, and we use it too with the EOS system. It's delegating or elevating um, tasks. How are you doing that on a business level for entrepreneur? They may not want to or be good at this kind of stuff. How do you help people with that?
We do a lot of events with brands 10x, and one of the philosophies there is we really need to equip entrepreneurs in this e-commerce space to be able to elevate. When they're doing multi-channel, it's getting even more complicated, right? But the first challenge, and one of our speakers was so good. He asked the audience, "Are you an entrepreneur or a CEO?" And I think that's the first challenge people need to get through is, do they want to be an entrepreneur and throw stuff up on the wall and try a few things? Is that who they are? Or do they need to figure out how to run a very good business, focus on value creation, and do whatever needs to be done to get that, to accomplish that goal? And so if we are realizing that we are not just purely an entrepreneur, we want to be both probably, but if we're not just purely an entrepreneur, we can't just focus on a tactical thing of tweaking a few keywords and adding 2 more SKUs. Like, we can't just do that. We need to be very, very strategic. And so I'm passionate about this. It's very, very fun to help brands and our own, whether they're our brands we're investing in, or others we're helping, or friends or whatever. I'm very passionate about helping people figure out differentiation, white space where they can really own a market, and then figuring out a strategy where they can actually take control over that space, and then execute a plan. First create a plan, and then execute that plan, and then finding the resources to go along with that plan to make sure we're able to execute. And then all throughout that process, having the right meeting rhythms, the right org structures, the right processes, and in thought, even like you're talking about with elevating and delegating. And so it's a lot of fun to do that. If we do that, we can break through, and in the verbiage of Amazon sellers, become a 7-figure seller, an 8-figure seller, a 9-figure seller. And we can't do that. We've got a ceiling above us if we're just focusing on some keywords and adding some SKUs.
Right. There's a whole different level of becoming, like you said, a CEO from an entrepreneur. So that's a really good perspective on how do people do it. How are we doing that? So like if I'm hearing this and I said, I think that's where I need to grow in 2024, Jamin. How are people doing this? How are you helping people set up them for success, and where should they turn to next? What's that next call to action, if you will?
Yeah, I think people that see this want to really focus on their product, their brand, their product roadmap, their differentiation, short term, midterm, long term, and then they figure out what is the best way to get the other stuff done, without distracting them or their team, and taking them away from where they can be the most helpful in value creation. And so that's what we love to do, is come in and provide the structure. People can sit with us, and we can work through what's your quarterly strategy. First, we have to figure out the long-term strategy, but then for this quarter, what is our strategy? What do we need to accomplish? And what team and technology and resources in general do we need to identify and actually deploy through this quarter, and help them get these pieces in place and continually evaluate, is it working? What's working? What's not working? And repeat. And so this is how people can break through on the marketing, all these marketing operations we're talking about. It's so complex now. Even single channel is too complex. multi-channel is very, very complex if they're trying to do both. So if they can get their company, their staff, to really focus on what is driving value, this can be a breakthrough.
Amazing. And final question, Jamin, what's a distraction for you at this moment, whether personally, business wise? What's an operational distraction for you that you're working on and need to get better at?
It's a good question. Right now, I'm consumed with a neck and back distraction.
No, injury.
Yeah, and so I think anything that can keep our mind off of where we need to be is obviously a distraction. There was a book I'm reading with a coach that I've hired for myself recently, which is it's called "Can't Hurt Me." And I recommend it to anyone. Can't Hurt Me. One of the theories in the book by the guy that has this amazing story. He went through a Navy SEAL Hell Week training for three different times. And he did a marathon with a broken leg, and he's done all these ridiculous things. But one of the things he talks about to break through, he tries to inspire and say, we only are operating at 40% of our abilities and our potential. And that at best case scenario for almost anyone. And so it's great to think about that and think through, what do I love to do? What am I amazing at? What's my unique capability? And focus on that and get rid of all the rest. And then we can break through.
Those are great points. And I think they would take any business or entrepreneur, like I said, to that entrepreneur level, to that CEO, or just getting better as a person overall. So great information overall, and fantastic kind of roadmap in terms of the mind. We went a little cerebral there, which I like. But Jamin, for people who are intrigued, want to know more, or fascinated and want to have more of this conversation about their brand or about what you are working on, how do they get in touch with you, or where do they find out more information?
Yeah, I can post some information. AI Commerce is a great way to contact us if anyone is really looking for how do they focus on creating value and partner /buy/build, whatever structure is right for them with the right capabilities they need. That includes strategy and execution. So it's a passion of ours to help build value together with partners. And that's a great place to start. Brands 10X is a great place for more training, coaching, and events, community, really helping each other do these things as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for hopping on and talking to our corner of the internet today. It's nice and cozy over here, but we love when smarter people like you come in and just kind of like shake us up and really reframe our mindset to get ready for 2020. I mean, 2023 is not over. I won't, by the time this goes out, there's still time in the year, but here in the next year, people are already planning for their success here in 2024. And I think we had a lot of great tidbits and pieces of knowledge there to pick from and build on. Again, this is all building blocks and pieces. You want to have that foundation, but now it's the time to the year of enhancement is like I like to tell our company right now at Frisbi. It's a year of enhancement for all entrepreneurs. How do they get better and what they're already currently doing very well? So thank you so much for hopping on today. I'm sure we'll be touching base and hearing back from you here in the Global Spin podcast. So thanks so much for spending time on. I don't know if it's sunny today for where you're at, but it is not. It's a little sunny here, but I'm going to assume it's sunny in Florida. Can't go wrong, right?
Oh, it's sunny.
Always sunny. Awesome. Thank you, Jamin, and thank you everyone from spending time in my corner of the internet called the Global Spin Podcast. We thank you for listening to us, or if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever you might be consuming this content, or on frisbi.com on our Global Spin Podcast page. Thank you for tuning in and listening to this episode, or again, catching on the audio version on all your favorite podcast destinations. That's Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it, we're on it. So thanks for spending time again in my corner of the internet. If you like it, go ahead and give a thumbs up to this episode on wherever you're listening. Or if you want more information, go ahead and reach out to me at ryan@frisbi.com. That's ryan@frisbi.com. ryan@frisbi.com. That's how you get information on all of our past guests. We'll connect you if you want to get in touch with our guests on any sort of information. Otherwise, go ahead and check out Jamin and his team at aicommerce.com or brands10x.com. I'm Ryan Cramer, the host of the Global Spin Podcast. We'll catch you guys next time on another exciting and informative episode. Take care.